Greetings, mortals. I am Q. And again I am here to pass judgment on Star Trek Discovery. This episode was the 13th and second to last of this season. Let's see, I believe it was called some crap like Such Sweet Sorrow because we're supposed to be sorry. We're supposed to be sorry that Michael Burnham is leaving us. Best news ever. Though, obviously, there's some issues with this setup. I mean, it looks like they might be planning on sending the Discovery crew to the future. Unfortunately, Oh, hello. Let's see, it's Fatland. And Maiden, of course, is here. It looks like they are planning on sending the Discovery and a portion of the crew, and of course Michael Burnham, to the future. The problem with this is that Spock is among them. So, two possibilities. One, they fail, and they find some other way to defeat Control. Or they succeed, and Spock goes with them, and you know he's going to be back because of the original series. So you know they get home again. Though there is a third possibility that he might be somehow removed from the ship. Oh! Thank you for your love, Fatland. That is wonderful. Q appreciates love, even if it is from lesser mortals. And cats are over there knocking over stuff, because Gary 7 stuck me with them again. So, to talk a little bit about this episode, let me go back to the beginning. So we start out with what happened previously. And I was a bit confused because the whole Princess Tilly thing apparently was in some short which I avoided watching. Though it probably didn't have Burnham in it because she had no clue what was going on. So I might have actually enjoyed it. But then they figure out that they can rebuild the Red Angel suit, use their new time crystal, and do something with that. But when we started, we had this wonderful plan to destroy the Discovery. That would have been neat. It's not like they haven't built other starships again and renamed them. Let's see, there's the Enterprise, 1701. Then there's the A, B, C, D, E. In the books, there's even an F. So it's not like they couldn't have destroyed it, but apparently the sphere data just doesn't like to be destroyed, so it blocked their attempt to destroy the Discovery. Now, I understood they had ship-to-ship communication, and why they used ramps, I guess it was to move people more quickly from the Discovery to the Enterprise. I guess the transporters weren't enough. They didn't plan for any of this stuff. But yes, they decide that they're going to destroy the Discovery. And Michael is in charge of the time crystal. Why they would expose someone who hasn't already been exposed to the time crystal to it, I'm not sure. Pike should have picked it up. He already knows what's going to happen to him. Good evening, Dean. Oh, the Doctor Who. He was nowhere to be found in this episode. You'd think wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff is just right up his alley. So, Burnham has this flash, which was not nearly as clear as the flash that Pike had about destruction happening in the future. But it does later on become clear once they all go over to the Enterprise, which I must say the bridge looked pretty good. I mean, it is definitely the modernized style of Discovery, but they did pay some homage to the original. So it wasn't a bad bridge, and they actually had handrails. So I guess because it's more of a Constitution-class starship with that's not meant for merely scientific endeavors, they actually have handrails, where on the Discovery, they expect scientists not to be battling all the time. It was interesting to see that the Discovery was actually larger than the Enterprise. The complement on the Enterprise is what, 230 now? When are they going to add a couple hundred more people? Do they need them to keep Kirk in line? So I like the new bridge, and of course the plan to destroy the Discovery failed. Burnham had this flash to see that the photon torpedoes would also do no good and would cause Discovery to raise its shields. And so this time flash, and then the attack, she visualized that, and Leland just kicking major butt. All these people struggling, but they didn't seem to have any plan. No one seemed to be armed except Giorgio. Does that make sense? Welcome, Rebecca. I think I have a couple of fans here. That is lovely. Thank you for joining. And Q is, of course, the best YouTuber because I am Q. So, of course, I'm saying of course a lot because there was a lot of things in this episode that were kind of passé. Burnham, of course, is the chosen one. Oh wait, that's the Matrix, isn't it? Or Buffy. Or Star Wars. There's so many chosen ones, it's hard to keep track. But because her DNA is close enough to her mother's, when they can rebuild the whole Red Angel device, she's the only one who can use it. And they go and they visit the pretty little princess. That's apparently from the Tilly short, who's brilliant, I must say. She's actually one of the smarter mortals out there. Dean's asking if I cheat at poker. Knowledge just comes to me. It's not like I can just, not know what his cards are. He was the fool for suggesting it. So what else about this episode? So Burnham, of course, it's the whole big goodbye. She must actually lead the Discovery into the future so that our dear friend Control doesn't gain control. And so with her doing it, a little snafu is that the way the crystal is charging, it's a one-way trip for her. Yay, I have to say. But of course, when everyone was like, we're going with you, and Spock was among them, I'm like, geez, can you make it any more obvious that it's not going to happen? I mean, they could have just had Spock not be able to. Or she convinced Spock not to go to the future. Then there would be this thing where next season they could end up in the future and have to deal with all kinds of things in the future that there's no history about. This big moment, yes, as Maiden is saying, this big moment that is going to be something. If Spock stays on the ship and goes into the future and their plan works, then they're getting back. Without Spock, you don't know if they're getting back. It could be something like Voyager, and it could take them years. Years! But no. Spock has to come along for the ride. And after she was mean to him as a child, I thought he hadn't forgiven her that. So I was looking forward to a huge battle and, with Section 31 ships coming in, and of course it's a cliffhanger. So we'll see the battle next week. Though an interesting little thing that smart-mouthed engineer that Stamets doesn't like got a little vision of the future, and it seemed very similar to what Michael saw. Apparently the Enterprise is going to get damaged again. Fadland, I'll talk about my favorite movie in a little bit. I do want to finish this episode because I want to get through it. So they do the whole charging thing. They're getting ready to face Section 31. There's going to be a big battle next week. I do like to see Pike. Pike, I have to say, has impressed me more and more. Actually, this very weekend, Fandom Spotlite is going to be at a convention where he's at, and hopefully we'll be able to record his panel, maybe an interview, so you'll get to know more, and definitely I will be asking him. I will have to go because he's actually, like Jean-Luc, a captain I can stand somewhat. I'll have to ask him if he is interested in returning for a Pike series. A Pike series would be excellent, even though his eventual doom. Seeing his adventures until then would be interesting. And other people on the ship, you don't know what's going to happen to them, except, of course, if Spock's around. Then he's not going to die, but two safe people. So overall, it was not a bad episode. Just the fact that Michael, again, is the only one who can do this. She has to sacrifice herself. Sarek, I'm actually rather glad he did not show as much emotion as I was afraid he would. Amanda, of course, being only human, would show emotion. Everybody has ugly cry faces. Well, Amanda, not so much, but Burnham definitely. And her passionate goodbye with Tyler, Vok, whatever his name is. That was touching. I mean, she was asked to come to the bridge immediately, and she seemed to take her sweet old time. Of course, she got ambushed by all these people. But I could tell Pike was like, get your ass up here. I did like the fact that they did point out that she's always the one, I have to sacrifice myself, it's all up to me. The whole persecution thing that she's got going on. I was kind of hoping that she would just move into the future and we wouldn't see her again, but something's going to happen and they're going to return. And if she's the source of these 7 signals, so she figures out some way to come back and cause those signals to appear. So they're a little bit flawed in their logic that it's a one-way trip entirely and she can do nothing. I mean, if she gets to the future and she has a starship, can't she go to that Klingon world with all the time crystals? Suppose even if the life is wiped out, maybe the crystals are still around. So then she could repair and, find a supernova. All kinds of little loopholes here. If she's responsible for the signals, then it's not exactly a one-way trip. She has some capability. And with Spock going to the future, if they make it, they're going to get back as long as he's on board. Again, I think that he should somehow be left behind. That would be a cool new series, to see the Discovery kind of on its own in the future, small crew. It would be lovely, but I don't know. Mellotron Studios didn't watch the episode because you were watching Orville, which is sometimes more Star Trek than Discovery. I would say I would give this episode a solid 7.328. It was good. It had some touching scenes. It's just Burnham is all over the place with the emotions, and again, I don't find her a very relatable character. If it was Pike sacrificing himself, which you know he can't quite do, because his sacrifice is yet to come, I would be a little bit more concerned. But Burnham is, again, not my favorite character. And I think that Soneqa's husband might have seen one of these and realized I was kind of bashing his wife's show and unfriended me on Facebook. Who unfriends Q?
Don't get Michael syndrome. He probably cleared out his list.
Or he could have just cleared out his list. But either way, it could have been either way. It doesn't really matter. I mean, Kendrick and I didn't exactly speak a lot. Say hi to him at cons. There are definitely problems with the logic, and it would be interesting to see Michael go back to the future, find her mother. Now, if Leland actually did see Michael's mother's body, then we know somehow she's going to travel back to that point and die. So Leland can see this and know what's going on. In the background, Gary Seven's cats are having a bit of a tiff. So you may see someone go behind me. Handmaiden of Q, move along, move along. I see some not me's. What are the not me's about? You wouldn't want to see a Pike series, is that it? I think since the original actor is a little indisposed at the moment, I think he would make a wonderful Pike. So overall, not a bad episode. Just it's hard when it's again a prequel to cause things to happen that endanger people like Spock, who you know lives to a ripe old age, goes back in time, starts a new timeline, meets his other self. You know all this stuff is happening. So since it's not a reboot, and they didn't change the timeline, it's supposed to go right into Kirk. Oh, wouldn't defriend me. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just with prequels, that is the challenge when you have characters you know survive and are around. How do you put them in jeopardy without doing what J.J. Abrams did? I must say, it was brilliant on his part. Go ahead, Handmaiden. It was brilliant on his part to reset the timeline. Dean, no, this is a 22nd century judge's outfit. They're all the rage, or they will be in a couple centuries. So it will be lovely on your planet. It's a great time, lots of death, lots of destruction. There's a little delay in the playback, and I just saw the Handmaiden run by. Not bad, not great. Rebecca, I have to agree. I mean, it did build up some tension, and I'm looking forward to seeing some battle scenes the next episode. But yes, it was good, not great, not horrible. So it was a good episode. But again, Michael is so overdramatic, and I know she's supposed to be the one we all relate to and put ourselves in her position, but I can't do it. Okay. Any more thoughts that you'd like to share? My favorite movie. Someone asked me that earlier. There are so many. My favorite musical movie, of course, Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. the superhero genre, V for Vendetta, one of my favorites of all time. I mean, I did enjoy First Avenger and a lot of the Marvel movies, but V for Vendetta is kind of in a class by itself. Mellotron, yes, I actually thought if they did post Nemesis, a Captain Worf series, I'm sure Michael Dorn would have appreciated being back in makeup again. The character who's been in more Star Trek episodes than any other. Yes, I've said in the beginning, and you can check my earlier reviews, that if they had set this series after Voyager, after Nemesis, after the last movies, all the technology they could have had fun with, they could have invented new enemies, but they wanted to do a prequel. I guess because they have an actor who looks a lot like Sarek. I mean, they could have done a City on the Edge of Vulcan episode and bought him in that way. Rebecca also loves V. Yes, I remember the 5th of November. Gunpowder, treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Yes, excellent movie. So the whole... Let's think about other prequels where we have issues. I mean, obviously, the Star Wars prequels, you knew Anakin was going to live because you know what he turns into. You knew Obi-Wan was going to live. You knew a lot of stuff that was going to happen. You knew that Luke and Leia would be born eventually. And they're the lamest thing in the world for Padme to lose the will to live. Is that actually a medical diagnosis? So prequels have issues. And again, I have made my peace with the fact that there's all kinds of newer looking technology, because obviously when they released the original series, they didn't have the technology or they would have used it. But, and I do appreciate the fact that holographic communication does not occur on the Enterprise at all. But again, they just have a lot of logic problems. Amethyst Willow says, yes, you would enjoy it more that way yourself. See, you humans can use logic. Okay, so we've covered Discovery. Next week, I don't imagine that this is when Pike will meet his doom. So hopefully we'll have room for a... Cats are screaming back there again. Yes, hopefully the whole he won't meet his doom, we'll be able to actually have a Pike series. Because it would be interesting to see Pike, and I actually have grown to like Spock. Though why he decides illogically to go to the future with his sister as an emotional gesture, I don't know. Why, yes, Fatland, I am often confused with a god. I am just a being that is far above you mortals, so much so that you would think I'm a god. So you may worship me if you'd like. It's probably one of the smarter things you could do. Better Call Saul. I've heard wonderful things about that. I have not viewed it. Just because I am so far behind on other shows. I still need to watch The Expanse. I need to watch Daredevil Season 3. I haven't watched yet. I mean, I do have things to do. Changing the laws of physics incrementally here and there takes a lot of my time. But Better Call Saul, I've definitely heard good things. I'll check that out. Yes, Rebecca, the cat should definitely stop. Gary Seven's got to train them better. And I know they're not really cats. They're not like Goose. They're not Flurkins, but they're definitely not normal cats. Hello, Isaac Sanchez. I am Q. I don't know why you would speak of excrement in the same sentence as Q. Yes, amazingly, Captain Kyle looks a lot like me. So, what else would you like to talk about? Do you have any questions for Q? I know in Walking Dead news, they've come out with, they're going to have a third series, which should be interesting, but it's not a prequel with the governor. So he's a bit disappointed at that. We could also talk about other awesome movies. We could talk about time travel. We could talk about the books. I mean, Spock has to come back because he has to go back in time 5,000 years. He gets around. And father a son named Czar. Daredevil Season 1 and 2. Season 1, I would say, was a bit better. Though Season 2 did introduce the Punisher. The Expanse, I've read all the books. But I'm a little behind on the series. And apparently, at the Great Philadelphia Comic-Con, they're going to have 5 actors from this marvelous show. Militron, thank you for subscribing, and I understand. Enjoy your time in bed. Where are you from? So that I know where your time zone is. Doctor Who. So do we want to talk about Doctor Who? What do we want to discuss about Doctor Who? Star Trek Enterprise. I just revisited the Mirror Universe episodes because I've been asked to provide some input on a future video which will be about the Mirror Universe because it is a fascinating subject. Rebecca, while they are not this is apparently going to be an ongoing series, I would think The Governor would be a limited series, so there are still other projects in the works. We can still hope that The Governor tells his early tales. It should be able to happen. I mean, let's see, 48 episodes, so they've got pretty much most of the year covered, but they could have The Governor, I would hope more than a 4-episode miniseries if they wanted to go year-round. I'm curious to see if there will be overlap with the series as far as timing. The poor governor will have to be doing all kinds of reactions. I know he's hard at work going back to season 1 of that show and preparing to react to that. So, but if there's like 2 series going on at once and he has to wait, and if they're both on the same night, he is going to be very, very upset. What did they cancel, Amethyst? Are you talking about Enterprise? I mean, that was canceled quite a while ago, just as it was starting to get good. So yes, Rebecca, could still happen. So time travel. There are many, many thoughts about time travel. There are some who say that time travel is what caused the Mirror Universe, or there was some kind of time incident split that caused it. So if you went back in time, there are those who say you couldn't kill your grandfather. Because this would obviously wipe you out. It would cause a paradox. However, if you go by the multiverse theory, then you would just cause an alternate branching where maybe you did not exist in that universe. You came from a different one, killed someone who is the grandfather of your alternate, but you still exist. The thing is, would you be able to get back to your original timeline, or would you be stuck in the new one? So that's one thought. And the other thought about time travel is if you go back, you try to change something, but you can't. You're prevented because you already did it. If you went back and tried to save, who's that guy, Lincoln, from assassination, try as you might, something would interfere because it already happened. The fact that you appeared in that time, that's still history. So you going back and trying to change it would be impossible. And there's also the ripple effect that you could go back in time, it would not spawn a new universe, and if you change something, it would take time for the timeline to adjust. So, but time has a way of healing itself. Florida. Well, Mellotron, enjoy it down there with all that humidity. Good night. Dean says, from the new Endgame trailer, that Captain Marvel said that other planets in the universe were unfortunate of not having the Avengers with them. Would you count on them to save your planet? Well, they didn't save the universe. I'm wondering why. Where was the Nova Corps? What were they doing when Thanos was rushing around? It's just we relied on the Guardians and the Avengers, and it just didn't work out. I would like to see other planets having their own superheroes. I mean, there's obviously the Kree have their own military organization, but I'd love to see actual superheroes. Marvel. Fatland, you're in Melbourne? Is that where you are? Maiden, I believe, is dealing with a cat situation. Melbourne. I have not been to that particular island of Australia. I believe that there are some conventions down there in Sydney and Perth that might be interesting. But unfortunately, it's unlikely that I'll be let out in time by the Continuum in order to see them. Rebecca, good choice. Time travel can be tricky. It takes a consciousness such as that of a Q in order to really compute all the variables and be able to adjust time accordingly. Of course, it was kind of fun going back and changing Jean-Luc's future, giving him the opportunity to see what he would have been if he didn't get into that fight and need an artificial heart. That was always fun. Louisiana and Kentucky. San Antonio, Texas. Awesome. People from all over. But Fatland has you definitely beat because Melbourne. This place is actually located near the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Not exactly an apt name for the town. Though they are inordinately proud of their sports teams and cheesesteaks and pretzels. Time travel movies. I'd like to talk about those. Has anyone seen Somewhere in Time? It's a bit of an older one. It's more of a romance. It has the late great Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. And it actually used mental ability to actually travel back in time, to come untethered from the time stream and move back. It was a pretty fascinating tale. it was merely his ability to convince himself that he was in a different time that actually caused the traveling. Pretty interesting. Somewhere in Time is your favorite, Amethyst? That is I actually believe Captain Kyle mentioned he purchased it on DVD, and then when he moved out of one of the places he lived with a roommate, it was nowhere to be found, so it may have been absconded with. 4:35. Hey, Gregory, welcome. 4:35 a.m. Amsterdam is, I think it's still closer to where I am than where Fatland is. So, what time is it in Australia? And Amethyst owns it. Awesome. The Time Traveler's Wife. Now, I did not watch the movie. I've read the book. The book was excellent. Quite often the movies made from books don't quite capture everything. I think Maiden has managed to separate the cats somehow. Amethyst is old, but you age backwards. So it's 12:35 a.m., which isn't too bad in Australia. However, it's I'm not even sure what day it is there. These time zones that you have on Earth are almost as complex as time travel. And as the continuum has kind of curtailed some of my abilities, I'm not using them to figure them out. 9:36. Where I am, it is 10:36. So, no, now 10:37. Because time marches on. Hot Tub Time Machine. That was amusing. That was a fun little tale. Back to the Future, of course, a classic with time travel. Damn, where's that kid? Other time travel movies. Timeline. The book, excellent. The movie, not so excellent. PM. So, yes, it's noon. Is it actually Friday right now in... Yes. Vatland, I have a question for you. Is there a holiday on Monday? Because the reason I ask is there is a con that is happening in the States that is running the 12th through the 14th. But I noticed there's a con in... Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's in New Zealand. So that maybe you may not be aware if there is a holiday on Monday in New Zealand. I know it's a neighboring country, but their con runs from Saturday through Monday, which generally around here does not happen unless it's a holiday. Like Dragon Con runs, I think now it's Thursday through Monday. That's quite the beast. Yeah, timeline with the book was very good. I didn't get the same sense from the movie. I did watch it. It kind of fell flat. So no. So in that part of the world, do you normally, instead of having Friday, Saturday, Sunday cons, have Saturday, Sunday, Monday cons? I mean, avoiding Mondays is something people would love, but it's just interesting to me. Other time travel. Let's see, as far as movies is concerned. Well, there was Time Bandits. That was quite interesting. I would not give a map like that to those guys. Of course, we're Maiden is back, and we're discussing time travel movies. So there was Time Bandits, Time After Time, a good movie. They tried to make a series of it, and it was interesting, but it got way too complex. Gregory wants me to yell, "Shut up, Wesley." Shut up, Wesley. I'm sorry, I had to use that voice. Source Code was good. I'm not sure if I saw Source Code. I've seen so many movies. It's hard to tell. A time travel TV series called Voyagers was interesting back in the 80s, though it was a bit cheesy at times. I've heard of Outlander, and I've heard good things, again, between the CW Arrowverse, though Arrow is kind of on its way out, and all the other shows. And I can't watch Young Justice Season 3 until Maiden catches up, so we're on Season 2, because I will get in trouble. Even Q's get in trouble. There was the time travel episode of the Transformers. Way too complex, like Lost. Lost. I would say they were trying to do another Lost. I think the problem with After Lost, it was good in the beginning, and even as time went by, it was bearable, but then it just got a little bit weird at the end. The whole "we're in purgatory" thing was just pissed me off. But the whole series after that tried to artificially create the same air of mystery. The V series, not to be confused with V for Vendetta, had some wonderful actors and actresses in it. But it's difficult to capture the same thing as the original V when people already knew they were lizards. A quick Google search could even tell the younger folk. And they just tried to make it more mysterious than it need be. Fatlin, thank you so much. Have a wonderful time down in Melbourne. And enjoy your Friday, which is half over. Yes, I finished 2. But yes, after that, they've tried to recapture that. And I think Time After Time was another thing, because they had the same start to the series, but then everybody knew about Jack the Ripper and Herbert Wells, and everyone knew about time travel, and there was all this. It just got way too much, way too quick. Looper, that was an interesting one. Enjoyed that. 12 Monkeys, of course. I did not watch the series, I saw the movie. But that was an attempt to change time, but it didn't work out. In fact, it worked out exactly the way it had happened, which is that particular form of time travel, where you can't change the past. But in this case, they gathered information from it. Recommend Outlander, the books and the series. Yeah, Lost just got way too complex for itself. Yes, Time After Time. The original, I actually have a copy of the Blu-ray of the original Time After Time movie signed by the writer. And it did not age that well. Though I still do like H.G. Wells going into McDonald's and saying, "Like a Big Mac and fries and tea, please." That's like a stand-up moment. V had potential. There were some good episodes, I will say. And of course, when you have Laura Vandervoort in any series, it's an awesome series. I have to say that or Maiden will hit me. But it is true. Laura does a fine job. Let me think. Other time travel movies.
The Time Machine.
Well, of course, there's the Time Machine. And let's see. I'm actually looking over there because there's a bunch of DVDs.
1201? No, that's a Groundhog Day.
12. Would you consider Groundhog Day to be kind of a time travel? Because it's kind of a time loop. Something that's been used again and again. There was actually a movie that was made around the same time that they decided not to put out in theaters, and they put it on, I think they released it on TV instead. It was called 1201. Jack Shoulder directed it, and it was another time loop type thing.
Terminator is time travel, especially Genesis.
Beto, season 2 has one more episode to go. Butterfly Effect, definitely an interesting time travel conundrum. And Butterfly Effect 2 had Erica Durance, I believe. So yes, Time Machine the classic. Season 2 has one more episode. It's the big battle for control of control, or having control lose control. I could do this all day. I do have to watch the Orville episode from tonight. I had to watch, of course, in order to do this stream, I had to watch Discovery, but we'll have to check out Orville. Was it a wonderful episode? Let me know. 12 of you. Excellent. So what else can we talk about time travel? I mean, I've read a lot of alternate history books, which is interesting. And some time travel books, like the Technicolor Time Machine, which was where a movie company decided to go back to actual ancient times to reenact Leif Erikson finding America first. And they ended up actually helping Leif Erikson find America first. So they made history that they were filming. Episode 10. I don't even know which one that was, but I do enjoy Groundhog Day. 1201 by Jack Shoulder. I don't think it's as easy to find as Groundhog Day, but it was an interesting time loop thing as well. Donnie Darko. I did not see Donnie Darko. Did you see Donnie Darko? Maiden is way behind. Well, I've seen Highlander. Not Outlander, Highlander. I've seen pretty much everything that you see up there. I have stacks of DVDs. Timeless. Was that the one with the with Mr. Fantastic? I mean, well, the guy who...
No, that was Forever.
That was Forever. Timeless. Which one was that? I did not watch Timeless. The old movies with Keanu Reeves. Yes, that was on the tip of my tongue before. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yes, if you have a chance, come September, there is a con called RetroCon in Oaks, Pennsylvania. And they will actually have the phone booth. I don't think it time travels.
Only one way to find out.
Yes, Terminator, Maiden mentioned that because that is definitely time travel.
Genesis focused on that a lot.
Yeah, Terminator Genesis was a bit convoluted, but a lot of people disliked Genesis. I thought it was fun, though it shot the timeline to hell. It was great to see Arnold beside himself. Yes, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was Keanu Reeves. Stargate was not time travel. The movie was not. There was a time travel and time loop episodes that were in the Stargate series, SG-1. I did not see all of Atlantis. It's waiting over there for me, all the seasons. And I did not watch U.S. for very much because it seemed they were trying to make Stargate Galactica. Stargate itself was not time travel, just travel by wormhole. Worm travel. 2 weeks away from Endgame being released in theaters. How do I feel about it? Well, again, here's part of the problem. I'm very interested in seeing the movie and seeing what happens, but we know that Spider-Man comes back and Black Panther comes back, and pretty much I think all the heroes that were turned into dust were basically, they will be restored. If Thanos had a problem with overpopulation, he has the Infinity Gauntlet. Why wipe out half the universe when you could just set everyone's biology so that they could only replace themselves reproductively? Zero population growth, and then maybe give a boost to all the resources. The way he's done it, he's wiped out half of the universe, and humans breed almost like bunnies, so they're going to repopulate the Earth, and he's going to have to do it again. But yes, I am excited to see how Endgame is resolved, but it's not like some characters are up in the air. There could be lasting consequences. Who knows? Steve Rogers may buy it. Buy the farm, as they call it. Go upstate to the farm. Tony Stark could die, or they could just retire. There's all kinds of things that could happen. So I am very interested in seeing it. Again, Thanos, very little imagination, didn't look at the problem from many other directions. Okay, Timeless, they changed history with a time machine, and they had a movie on NBC this last December. I'll have to check that out. It's very timey. Hello, Matt. It's very timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. So they had episodes in Atlantis that they did some time travel. Excellent. And in Stargate Universe, I just thought that Stargate Universe was way too much of an attempt to mimic the grittiness of Battlestar Galactica and put it in a Stargate series. And I don't think it worked very well. And it didn't last as long as the other Stargate series, I don't believe. So it didn't work well at all for others. Because it's more dramatic, says the writers. Yes. A lot of writers... I hate lazy writing. But a lot of writers, unfortunately, they don't look to invent something new. They look... And it's impossible to invent something entirely new, but instead of giving it a new spin, they say, this was a popular show, that was a popular show. Let's make this show like that, but just change it enough so that we don't get sued. And hey, Stargate was popular. Battlestar Galactica was popular. Let's put them together and make Stargate Galactica. It's just some lazy writing. And again, back to Discovery, some of the writing in there is a little bit lazy. But I'll tell you what was not lazy, though it was not entirely unpredictable. Shazam was fun. Endgame is a 3-hour movie, yes. And Dean Amethyst points that out. Dean says it's worth it, being the last Avengers movie. I don't know if it's the last Avengers movie, but it's probably the last one that will see the Avengers, the original team. Something's going to happen. Black Widow's getting her own movie. That's wonderful.
I guess past the point of people wanting it.
It could be. Maiden says it might be beyond the point where people want to see a Black Widow movie. But I would still watch it. I think it's still going to make money. And I guess Captain Marvel had to prove to them that a female-led movie could work. That's one place where DC was ahead of it. But Shazam, definitely recommend. Amethyst didn't like Universe at all. Yeah, again, I didn't like also the fact that they had the pretty girl who the geeky guy liked, and of course she was into the soldier. I don't know if that ever changed, but it was just so stereotypical. It was annoying. Interstellar. I don't think I watched Interstellar. All right. Was that Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar? I think it was. Yeah, lazy writing is a plague for shows today. I believe Captain Kyle has a few ideas for series that would not be quite so stereotypical, but who knows. Atlantis was good. And Major Joe Flanagan, I think later on he became a colonel, great character. They did bring over, what's that?
John Shepherd.
John DeShepard, who's who?
John, you called him Joe Flanagan.
Oh, yes, that's I get mixed up between the actors. So Joe Flanagan played Shepard, who was, he was a good character. Then, of course, they brought over some people from SG-1. They already had done that with Rodney McKay, but, and some of the others, including our dear friend David Nichol was in it as well. Disney already has the next 5 years planned out, plus shows for their streaming service with no X-Men or Fantastic Four. They may adjust their plans. I mean, they were certainly hoping Inhumans did better than it did. Not exactly, not the fault of Anson Mount or the other of the cast. It was just bad special effects, from what I understand. Bad writing. I have not tortured myself by watching it, but I probably will. Lockheed?
Lockjaw.
Or Lockjaw. So, Lockheed Martin is what I'm thinking.
You're confused today.
I'm very confused. You see, because I am trapped here by the continuum, certain mortal things affect me, like I actually need to sleep, which I never really needed to do before, and this morning I woke up. The cell phone was going off, and I thought it was the radio, and I was trying to turn off the radio. Matt says, well, Rebecca says Disney has their claws into everything. Yes, they're trying to get everything. I don't think they'll be able to get Warner Brothers and get the DCEU under their wing, though it would make it interesting if they did a crossover movie, just one. Yeah, Lost, the time travel thing in there was kind of strange. Yes, it just got too convoluted. They were like, we have these mysteries going and we're not revealing stuff, and we're just going to have layers upon layers, and then they just added too many layers. Let's see here. We have been at this for approximately 1 Earth hour. And I am told by the people around me that there's a convention tomorrow and interviews to do and all this, and people need sleep. I actually need sleep now. Hopefully tomorrow morning I will not confuse the phone for the clock, for the radio alarm clock. I am told it was quite amusing watching me try to manipulate this alarm clock when it was actually my phone.
It wasn't funny in the moment, because it was just annoying.
Yeah, so apparently not in the moment it wasn't. WB is opening their own streaming service. Well, they have the DC Universe already, which I enjoyed Titans Season 1. Might have to take a few more episodes to get into the Doom Patrol. I may be forced to watch it. Mr. Peabody and Sherman and the Wayback Machine, yes. Gregory, you want to get this hat? Send me $15,000 and I'll be happy to provide it. These outfits used to be available on cosplaysky.com, but then they got a cease and desist from Paramount or CBS or someone who owned the rights to it, and now they no longer sell Star Trek costumes. So Rebecca doesn't need sleep. Maiden, you are timeless, apparently. Matt just said that you are timeless. Maiden is timeless.
That would explain why I look 12.
You can tell that. Are you going to chat?
I don't think they can hear me.
What's that?
I figure they can hear me.
I don't know if they can or not. Doom Patrol, just watched the first episode. I was not crazy about it, but Maiden is thrilled, so... just watched the first episode of Black Summer. I'm willing to give it a few episodes. It was interesting, but not riveting as of this moment. And of course, Stranger Things Season 3. Is Maiden an undercover Q? Or a little Q? Because she's small. SMO. Let's just say that she's got some power. But okay, back to Discovery, which we went way off topic. But yes, Discovery, I give it a 7.348. Solid. Good episode, not great. I know, I have powers beyond your comprehension. You'll get there one day. She's pointing out my poetic skill. So, I am looking forward to the finale. Again, would love to see a Pike series. And stay tuned on this channel this week as we will be releasing interviews and panels from the Great Philadelphia Comic-Con. And hopefully we'll have some stuff with Anson Mount. We will likely have some stuff for fans of The Expanse. We will have some stuff from there, as they have been rescued from cancellation. Sci-fi does that a lot. They cancel good shows. But this time, Amazon Prime rescued them. I only wish they could have done that for Dark Matter. GOT, Game of Thrones or Westworld. They're both on my list. I've read all the Game of Thrones books, all the Song of Ice and Fire. So I will get around to the Game of Thrones. I hear it does deviate in some ways, but I just needed the pain of all the suffering of the books to kind of distance itself. I am a feeling being. But very well. So my verdict is in on Star Trek Discovery. We will see what happens next week. And I am going to call it a night. So thank you so much for coming to this live chat. We will have our final one for the season next Thursday night. And then, more than likely, we haven't decided on Saturday or Sunday, but there will be a live chat, which will be a little bit earlier on a Saturday or Sunday, so that people over in Europe and people over in other countries might be able to attend without having to stay up until 3, 4, 5 in the morning. So I know that should be appreciated. So yes, Dark Matter was awesome. Hopefully this summer we'll interview yet another Dark Matter former cast member. Good night, Isaac. Good night, all of you. And just remember, the trial is never over.